Well, friends, it's hard to believe we're already three-quarters of the way through 2025, but here we are. So let's take a couple of minutes and let's dig into the market numbers for Lubbock County and see how we fared so far through the first three quarters of 2025. As always, we're going to look at the four basic elements of the market overview, buyer activity, listing inventory, and interest rates. So let's start with the market overview first. Good news, we finished the month of September with just a hair over 400 homes going under contract. This is actually one more unit than August, but why this is encouraging is we're not seeing the normal continued downtrend, seasonal downtrend of buyer activity. It looks like the declining interest rates in September actually kept buyers engaged a little bit more than you normally would expect this time of year. So it's encouraging to see that we're up 4.5% year over year for the number of homes going under contract in September. Closings were up a little bit as well. So year to date, we're up about 3.5% for the number of closings that we've seen. Interestingly enough, in regards to average and median home price, we did see a negative number there this month for September. That's the fourth month this year that we've seen that. March, May, and July were also negative months for price growth in our market. But that being said, we're still up about 2.5% for the average home price so far this year. Days on market's almost even, 60 days so far as we go through the month of September and enter into the fall season. Under contract activity, as I mentioned just a minute ago, we were just one over what August did, which is unusual. Normally, you're going to expect to see September a little bit lower than August as we continue to get further into fall, but we didn't see that. So it'll be interesting to see what October holds for us. One interesting note is that so far this year, we have not had a month that's had less than 400 homes go under contract. In 2024, we only had 6 months of the year that had 400 homes or more. And of course, you'll remember back in April, we cracked the 500 mark for the first time since 2021. So overall, we've had a good year. As we mentioned, closings are up about 3.5% year to date. As you look at Lubbock County active listings, we still remain on the heavy side for listings. In fact, right at the end of the month, this last week, we crossed over 1,700 active listings in Lubbock County again. This time, though, we went higher than we did a few months ago when we cracked the 1,700 threshold. We were up right around 1,750 midweek last week, and right now as we start this week, we're just a little bit over 1,700. So we have seen that number come down just a little bit. But it looks like as we get into the fall, we're starting to see the inventory numbers increase, which of course is keeping sellers honest on their pricing, but giving home buyers a nice selection of inventory out there. Interest rates have been an interesting story. The first couple of weeks of September, we started seeing them coming down as mortgage lenders anticipated the Fed rate cut that we saw mid-September. What surprised some people, though, is that we did not see the mortgage rates decline further after the Fed lowered the prime rate after the meeting. Of course, this happened last time too. The last two times that the Fed lowered the rate, remember this end of 2024, mortgage rates actually went up. And we saw the same thing this time as well. They didn't go up much, went up about 8%, but they didn't come down anymore. People were confused. But again, as I just mentioned, mortgage lenders had already started pricing in that rate cut a couple of weeks ahead of the meeting. And then some of the jobs numbers that came in made the markets nervous. And so the rates went up just a hair and have hovered in Lubbock right around 6% with some of the local lenders. Of course, nationally, you're seeing 6.3%, more of the common number. As you look at home sales year to date, anticipated for the closing of 2025, if numbers keep tracking the way they are, we should end up between 4,800 and 4,900 homes sold. This would be about a 2.5% increase over 2024, which would put us back in range, really not far off of the 2020 units sold. Of course, 2023 and 2024 were in line with 2018 and 2019, which were the last quote unquote normal markets before COVID. So we've actually been doing pretty well in Lubbock the last couple of years, and this year is trending up when many markets nationally, especially some of the larger markets, are really struggling. Nationally, the anticipation is that we will see about the same number of home sales that we've seen the last 2 years, which going back 30 years are among the lowest home sales levels we've seen since the early to mid 90s. Of course, when you factor in the rate of population growth, adding an extra 80 million or so people to the U.S. population since the mid 90s, the ratio of home sales to population is actually the lowest we've seen in many decades. So it's an interesting time for the national perspective. Some markets in the Northeast are seeing a seller friendly market. Multiple offers are common, inventory is limited. Much of the nation, though, is now in a balanced or buyer-friendly market. So, as always, if you have any specific questions, even if you're not planning a move, just reach out to us. We're always happy to visit with you and help you figure out what your plans might be or when they might need to happen if you're considering a move. But if you just have general questions because you're just curious, reach out to us anyway. We're always happy to help. As always, we're here when you need us. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.